Hey guys, alright. I decided to take a little bit of a break from the quilt to show you how far I got last night. I'm almost done with the first section of blocks. See? Almost done with the first section of it. There's 32 blocks right there. Yeah, there's 32 blocks. So,
if you're real, make the phone ring.
and I don't have many left. I have enough left to do one more 16 block square that I'm going to have to put on the end of that, because I'm going to have to do it lengthwise. But I decided to take a little bit of a break and do some videos. So I haven't been doing very many of them, and really need to start getting these out there. I need to get back to doing the pins. So, yeah. This one is, we're still on the goat's milk, and this is milk output and milk handling. Yeah. Exactly how much milk a doe produces in each cycle depends on her age, breed, ancestry, feeding, health, and general well-being, and how often you milk. The more often you milk, the more milk the doe will produce. Most goat keepers milk twice a day, as close to 12 hours apart as possible. I'll have to remember that. If milking twice a day gives you more milk than you can use, milk only once a day. Do it every day at about the same time. If you don't milk regularly, your doe's udder will bag up or swell with milk. Bagging up signals the doe's body that her milk is no longer needed, and the doe dries off. Milk sold at the grocery store is measured by volume: 1 pint, 1 quart, or 1 half gallon. Milk producers measure milk by weight, pounds and tenths of a pound. 1 pint of water weighs approximately 1 pound, giving rise to the old saying, "A pint's a pound the world around." Milk also weighs approximately a pound per pint, although its exact weight depends on the amount of milk fat it contains, which varies by goat and season. During the peak of production, a good doe in her prime should give at least 8 pounds of milk, about a gallon, per day. Oh, man. She will then gradually taper off to about 2 pounds, 1 quart per day by the end of her lactation cycle. During the entire lactation, the average doe will give about 1,800 pounds, or 900 quarts, of milk. A miniature doe averages 1/3 as much milk as a large doe. Weighing each doe's output helps you manage your goats properly. A sudden decrease in production may mean a doe is unhealthy, is not getting enough to eat, or is in heat. Weigh milk by hanging the full pail from a dairy scale. I have to get one of those. A dairy scale has 2 indicator arms. Set the arm on the right to 0. With the empty pail hanging from the scale, set the left arm to 0. When you hang a pail of milk on the scale, the left arm automatically deducts the weight of the pail. Use the right arm to weigh other things such as newborn kids. If you don't have a scale, you can keep track of each doe's output by volume, although this method is not as accurate as weighing because fresh milk has foam on top, and it's hard to tell where the foam stops and the milk starts. Keep a record of each doe's milk output, noting not only from the amount of milk obtained from each milking, but also anything that might affect output, such as changes you made in the doe's ration, rainy weather that has kept your herd from going out to graze, or the time of day you milked, whether earlier or later than usual. At the end of each month, add up the doe's milk output. At the end of her lactation cycle, add up each doe's total output. A standard cycle lasts 10 months or 305 days. To accurately compare the annual output from each doe, or to compare the output of one doe against another, adjust production to a 305-day cycle. Divide the total output by the actual number of days in the cycle, then multiply by 305. So that would be farm animal math. There we go, Chloe. Farm math. No? Milk handling. Milk, especially raw milk, is highly perishable and extremely delicate. Following are some simple steps that will prevent spoilage. Cool milk immediately after milking. Don't add fresh warm milk to cold milk. Never expose milk to sunlight or fluorescent light. Cooling milk immediately after milking means that it should not be left standing while you finish chores. Ideally, milk should be cooled down to 38 degrees Fahrenheit within an hour after leaving the goat. That's quite a rapid drop when you consider that it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit when it left the udder. Home refrigerators aren't cold enough to cool large quantities of milk. Small containers may be cooled in the refrigerator, but anything more than a quart will not cool rapidly enough for good results unless it's immersed in ice water. Remember, the bottom of the refrigerator is colder than the top is. Don't add fresh warm milk to cold milk. If you're accumulating milk for cheese making, develop a system for rotating it, perhaps from left to right or one shelf to another so you know which is freshest. If you store milk in glass jars, be sure never to leave them in the sun or fluorescent light, as this will change the flavor. But then, don't leave a container of milk sitting out after a meal in any event. Keep it cold. Okay. So, you know what? I'm just going to finish this whole section. Raw milk versus pasteurized. If you want to start a dandy and sometimes heated discussion in goat circles, just casually bring up the topic of raw milk and stand back. For obvious reasons, most people never worry about such trifles. They just buy their jug or bag of milk and don't ever have to think about where it came from or how it was treated. For those of us interested in simple living, however, or even just producing our own dairy products, it's not nearly so simple. Here's the problem. Milk is the ideal food for animals, for humans, and for bacteria. Milk is extremely delicate. It can attract, incubate, and pass on all sorts of nasty things, such as salmonella, toxoplasmosis, Q fever, listeriosis, campylobacteriosis, and others that most of us non-medical people never even hear about. In short, nature's most healthful food can make you very sick. The industrial age answer has been pasteurization, heat treating the milk to kill or retard most of those threatening organisms. Government regulations now demand that such treatment be performed for the public good, quote unquote. This is no doubt a wise policy for the masses. When you pick up a jug of milk at the store, how would you know if the dairy animals were healthy, if the milker had clean hands or a running nose, and if proper sanitation measures were taken without such governmental intervention? Well, okay, yeah. But many goat milk drinkers raise their glasses with a different perspective, and that was, I've never had goat milk, but
For how long?
they know everything about their animals, from age and health status to medical history and what they ate since the last milking. The home milker knows exactly how the milk was handled, how clean the milking area and utensils were, how quickly the milk was cooled and to what temperature, and how long it has been stored. Usually it hasn't been stored long. Most milk from the home dairy is probably consumed before commercial milk even leaves the farm, if it's picked up only every 2 or 3 days. Under these conditions, most people who milk goats feel it isn't necessary to go to the bother of pasteurizing their milk. Also, many people raise goats because they want raw milk. It's illegal to sell raw milk, goat or a cow, in most states, although goat's milk is often sold as pet food for orphaned or sickly young animals. Some think it tastes better, and some think it's more nutritious. Blah, blah, blah. Pasteurization does have an effect or nutritive value, but raw milk opponents claim it's very minor and insignificant when compared to the potential dangers of untreated milk. To them, those dangers are horrific. They would just as soon drink poison. One of the potential problems raw milk opponents often point to is the campylobacteriosis, a gastrointestinal disease caused by the Campylobacter, a bacterium universally present in birds, including domestic poultry. Among the symptoms, which range from mild to severe, are abdominal cramps, diarrhea, and fever. Apparently, farm families who regularly drink raw milk build up an immunity. Most of the reported cases have involved farm visitors, those unused to raw milk. Raw milk advocates point out that the incidence is very small, might as well worry about being struck by a meteorite, they say. Most serious diseases associated with raw milk consumption are tuberculosis and undulant or Malta fever, called brucellosis in animals. Brucellosis. While cattle are susceptible to tuberculosis, goats are highly resistant. They have not been implicated in tuberculosis outbreaks. And whereas undulant fever is a goat problem in some countries, including Mexico, it hasn't been in the United States. So who's right? Those who oppose raw milk or those who advocate it? Probably both in certain situations and under certain circumstances. For example, people with impaired immune systems, such as infants and the elderly, are more at risk for some of the minor diseases that can be passed from goats to humans. In general, most people who feel strongly about this issue one way or the other base their decisions more on emotions than on facts. Your personal decision will very likely depend on your psychological makeup, how you regard science and medicine in general, for example, your attitude toward natural or organic foods, or whether or not you fasten your seatbelt. Pasteurization 101. If you decide to pasteurize your milk, all it involves is heating it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Home-sized pasteurizers are available. Do not use a microwave, as some people suggest. Dairy scientists have proved that it doesn't work. And if you prefer raw milk but want an extra measure of safety, have your goats tested for tuberculosis, brucellosis, and Campylobacter, and be sure to practice scrupulous sanitation. Milk sensitivities. Milk gets its sweet taste from the complex sugar lactose. For your body to digest lactose, it needs the enzyme lactase to break down the lactose into two simple sugars, glucose and galactose. About 75% of all adults are lactase deficient. They cannot digest lactose, and when they ingest it, the result is bloating, cramps, gas, nausea, and diarrhea. The problem may be resolved by taking a lactase concentrate available in most drugstores. Fermentation reduces lactose content by as much as 50%, so if you have a problem drinking milk because of a lactose intolerance, you may not have a problem eating yogurt. Not all problems associated with milk are caused by lactase deficiency. About 5% of the population is allergic to the milk protein. In children, symptoms of milk protein allergy are eczema and digestive problems, including diarrhea, vomiting, and colic. In adults, milk protein allergy causes a feeling of being bloated and gassy. Since the protein in goat milk is not the same as the protein in cow's milk, someone who is sensitive to cow's milk protein may have no trouble drinking goat's milk. Besides having a different protein makeup, goat's milk has proportionally more small fat globules, making it easier to digest than cow's milk, and therefore leaving less undigested residue in the stomach to cause gas and cramps. Ooh, no!
Going out.
Sorry. Whole and skim milk. After goat's milk has been refrigerated for a day or two, its milk fat... Go lay down! Its milk fat rises to the surface. Milk fat thinned with a little milk is cream. The milk fat content of goat milk ranges from 2 to 6%, depending on genetics, diet, and other factors. And an average of 4% will give you about 5 tablespoons of milk fat per quart. The milk from Nubians and African pygmies contains more fat than other milk, and the milk from all does varies in fat content during the lactation cycle. Ooh, my side hurts. Oh gosh. Milk fat content is important in making ice cream, butter, and certain kinds of cheese. You are trying to limit the amount of fat in your diet. You may remove the milk fat to create skim milk. Store fresh milk in a wide-mouthed container. In about 2 days, most of the milk fat will rise to the surface and you can then skim it off. Alright, goat's milk versus cow's milk. Goat's milk does not taste any different from cow's milk. It doesn't look appreciably different. It's somewhat whiter because it doesn't contain the carotene that gives a yellow tinge to the fat in the cow's milk. Goats convert all carotenes into vitamin A. It's not richer. It certainly does not smell. If it does, something's wrong. Most goat raisers enjoy serving products of their home dairy to skeptical friends and neighbors. Their reaction is invariably why it tastes just like cow's milk. People who are accustomed to regular standardized milk that has the butter fat removed to just barely meet minimum requirements, or who drink skim milk are prone to comment on the richness of goat's milk. They'd say the same thing about real cow's milk if they had the opportunity to taste it before the cream was separated from it. As with cow's milk, the percentage of butterfat, the source of the richness, varies with the breed, stage of lactation, feed, and age, but generally, there is virtually no difference in taste or richness between whole, fresh cow's milk and goat's milk. Okay, so that was all on the goat section of the meat and dairy, so I'm going to go ahead and get this up there, and I will see you guys in the next video. The next one is on sheep for meat and milk, and I would not be doing either with the sheep. If we're able to get sheep, it is strictly going to be for their wool and to be able to learn how and make that into our own yarn and our own fabrics. So, anyway, so I will see you guys in a few. I will definitely do more videos tonight, but I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.